Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Not Funny Guys Presents Go Team Venture. I'm once again broadcasting from my office, secret panic room. Yes, this is my panic room. Don't pay attention to what I said before. But welcome back, Not Funny Guys Present Go Team Venture. I am your host, Dr. John, and today we will be going into 2 more episodes as we continue to move through Season 4. This episode 11, is Any Which Way But Zeus. And this was originally aired on the 26th of September, 2010, written by Doc Hammer. Basically, supposedly, perhaps the mythical god of Zeus is kidnapping people, particularly underlings, villain and hero alike, to fight to the death. And he is served by some sort of centurion going by the name of Zero. The Guild, the Revenge Society, the Perilous Partnership, and the OSI and Sphinx are all forced to come together to hold some sort of like conclave of sorts hosted by General Tracer of the OSI to figure out what's going on. This means Phantom Limb and Richard Impossible are both there now that they have restarted this organization, but they're trying to figure out who this Zero guy is. He's a centurion. He's forcing all these underlings to fight each other. At one point, Shore Leave and 21 are forced to fight each other, but then they end up working together. They attack the cardboard cutout. And 21 is apparently like the most skilled gladiator. He defeated Ghost Robot at one point. But there's a whole thing where they attack the cutout, find out it's not real, so there is no Zeus. It turns out that Zero is revealed, 21 figured it out, I think with the Ghost of 24's help, that this is Henchman 1 from way back in the Lepidarctus, whatever it is. Collect butterflies. I can never pronunciate it. He basically has kidnapped all of them and forcing them to fight. They also had the realization that Desmond is the original Captain Sunshine, apparently. He apparently had been tricked into working with him. Billy and Pete are also here. Billy is one of the first people that you see kidnapped. They free the captives. They defeat Zero. Rusty has, in the meantime, grown despondent that he hasn't been kidnapped. And so Hank and Hatred and Dean all basically arranged to kidnap him to make him feel okay, where he has a whole bunch of things where Hank and Hatred are really into it. Dean, not so much. And Dean even uses a Teddy Ruxpin to sort of talk to his dad. And I love the fact that at one point, while Hank is interrogating him, Rusty basically, who's giving him all these pointers about how you're not doing this very well, he gives him a whole spiel about how he feels bad for Hank because Hank is most like him. So there's this strange, doesn't know he's talking to Hank dear moment. But yeah, the Teddy Ruxpin thing is kind of hilarious. Basically, that's the good cop. He tells the captors to kill Hank when they claim they have the boys. That's because Hatred makes a mistake and says something. He just sort of doesn't realize he's talking to a disguised Hank and Hatred and all that fun thing. And then eventually they sort of leave him at the end. And there's a whole after bit where Hank and Hatred, they're watching Rusty continue to talk to the Teddy Ruxpin. Hank says, we'll release him after his check clears. So apparently he is totally willing to cash in on it. Fun episode. We get to see the return of Henchman, of course, Henchman 1, calling himself Zero. But there's really funny because it starts off with that whole Greek god, is it really Zeus, kidnapping people? 21, of course, like I said. And then, of course, the whole thing with the organizations coming together is ridiculous. The Revenge Society, the Parallel Partnership are all invited to this gathering. Watch and Ward inform Dr. Impossible and Phantom Limb and some others that because they're living weapons, they have to wear an inhibitor. And apparently there are side effects because, like I said, they are living weapons. Hank and Dean, like I said, do the mask. They use masks. Hatred and Hank especially use masks, like little toy masks that have voice alterators when they kidnap Rusty. They're trying to figure out this whole thing, and it's absolutely absurd because it all gets solved by the end. And this council conclave thing literally achieves nothing. We do really at one point during this scenes in the shell, which apparently they're at like a racetrack. It's weird. They find out, like I said, Desmond's the original Captain Sunshine. We also find out that Billy and Pete, when they are forced to fight each other at one point in the arena, it just descends into them arguing with each other because there's some sort of weird thing that One of them is the henchman for the other one kind of thing, and they get into a fight over it. And 21 is still talking to 24's ghost, even though we don't see it. Of course, we do find out about the statue and that the centurion who's Zero is really him. Lepidopterists is the episode from back in season 3 when we launched Henchman 1. We didn't know what happened to him. We just know that Brock hunted him down. And of course, the defeated henchmen at the end to reunite, both the henchmen and the underlings, reunite with their real people in a sort of take on a Coca-Cola ad. And of course, this whole conclave, they literally sit around in their underwear while General Traster plays games and nicknames with them. It's absolutely absurd. It is a fun to see Henchman 1 come back in this whole little protagonist thing. And I think I like the furthering of the Hank and Rusty narrative about the sort of how he mostly identifies with Dean, but yet Hank is more like him, and that's why he's hardest on him kind of thing, and the troubled nature of Dean growing up in the shadow of his father. So that brings us to the end of that one, episode 11. Let's move on to our next one. But before I do that, remember, like, subscribe, comment, share, keep developing these and making them go on. We press on to episode 12. All right, now we are back. Episode 12, Everybody Comes to Hank's. This originally aired on the 3rd of October, 2010. Doc Hammer is the writer of this one as well. Interestingly enough, this is a sort of a two-parter, so you'll have to wait till next episode for us to talk about the episode Bright Lights, Dean City, because this episode is kind of split in two, because what we find here is Dean is taking, Rusty is taking Dean in hatred to New York City because Dean is getting an internship for the summer, and he tells Hank, get a job. Hank then does get a job by basically inventing a company, Hank-Co. At one point, he even gets Dermot to start working for him, and Dermot is calling his mom to come pick him up, and then his sister Nikki, and this turns him into a whole situation where apparently Dean is running everything you could possibly need, including a notary and a detective agency. So he gets on this whole case about whether or not who Dermot's true father is and whether or not it's Brock. Brock denies it, but Dermot gives Hank a venture keychain that he got from his mother that has a key to the compound. Hank, who has been flirting with Dermot's sister Nikki, goes to see her eventually, and he gets lucky. No longer a virgin. Of course, Orpheus and Alchemist basically decide, and Alchemist, Al has been playing around this whole thing because there's a whole noir trope going on in here where the hard-boiled detective that Hank is, and we have a chase and fight scenes and interrogations and all the standard tropes that are absolutely hilarious. But of course, the Orpheus and the Alchemist basically decide, why aren't we using our powers? They decide to use their powers, perform a spell on the keychain, and it reveals to them the truth. Apparently, Dermot's father is actually Rusty Venture. He impregnated Nikki when she was 15 and the president of his fan club, because she's one of the reasons she's attracted to Hank is she reminds her of his father, but not the real one, but the one from the cartoon. And she runs like a rare collectibles business as well. We find this out from Billy, who's joining in on the little noir secret meeting, handing off sketchy material hidden in a newspaper kind of trope things. And so we find out the truth that he impregnated Nikki. They decided she wanted to keep the baby, so her mother decided to say that Dermot was her son and Nikki was his sister. So we do this whole little thing. Not uncommon, actually, if you go back in history, when this would happen to young women, they would go away, and when they would come back with their mothers, they would have a new baby brother or sister when it was really their child. But it was a way of escaping the shame of, unwed pregnancy and all that stuff. So apparently something like that's happened here. So Dermot's really Rusty and Nikki's son. He thinks that Brock might be his father and that his mother is really his grandmother. And Hank learns all this because he accidentally touches the key when the enchantment's still going. And so not only has he had sex, that's right, but now he knows this horrible truth. And so it's decided they have to wipe his memory. Before they wipe his memory in the Sphinx memory wiping machine, which is like a little cockpit, looks like a training cockpit for a fighter plane, he records a message on his watch. He doesn't tell the crazy stuff that he doesn't want to remember, but he makes sure that he tells himself that he is no longer a virgin. He is like, and then he does a great description I'll get to in a second there. And that's all part of the postscript. And then, of course, Dean comes back and he's like very disheveled. And it's like, well, what did you do with your summer? Because we've now seen Hanks as he's, going to go get his memory wipe. And actually, this is after the memory wipe when he's watching the recording playback. But, of course, we have to wait till the next episode to see what happened on Dean's end of the story. So, going into some of the details here, Hank was left for 4 days because apparently Dean not only was off with Hatred to his internship, but Hatred got tickets to see Music Man, and he does a terrible rendition of that. But apparently he does know how to pull off a tasteful-looking, for a big guy, tasteful-looking Hawaiian shirt. I gotta give him props for that. I love that Hank's solution to getting a job is to start his own business, Hank Co., which is basically him just selling Rusty and everybody back their stuff. So Dermot's working for him. Like I said, Dr. O and Alchemist get involved because they come for the notary service. The Hank Co. detective agency gets on the track of the whole situation, Dermot's real father, which is how we get into this whole noir thing. And we do turn into this sort of sepia black and white whenever we're doing the noir thing, and then we come back to color, full of chases, secret meetings, clandestine handoffs, the like. At one point, when Dermot can't get a hold of his mom, Nikki shows up, but he's already gone home. And this is when she starts first flirting with Hank. Hank is wearing this detective-looking hat. He's really wearing an Indiana Jones hat because apparently it came with a whip. And the hat is everything to him. In fact, when he does lose his virginity later, he's like, don't touch the hat. Like, the hat has to stay on. It's like all of his confidence. So we also have apparently 17 years ago, is where the mystery starts, where Dermot's history. And the mystery of Dermot's dad is this sort of little thing. Brock doesn't remember. They have a photo. He's like, nope, I've never been that drunk. So it's not Brock, but Dermot does have a key to the compound, like I said. So how does he have that? This is where we go back in time, of course, after we see this is going on while Hank goes and basically, just like his old man, like I said, they enchant the key that goes back. So basically, Rusty committed statutory, assault, in a sense. But apparently he wrote a nice check to them. And it's funny to watch to see where his hairline is at that point in the whole thing. So Brock's and Spinks, of course, wipe the memory, but he does things. And, of course, we have to wait till Bright Lights Dean City, our next episode for next time, to see the follow-up to this and find out what happens next. So, fun times. Great episode. This is one of my favorite ones because now we're sort of starting to split the boys up into their own things. And Hank's doing his old wild adventures, detective agency thing. And now we will then next time turn our attention to Bright Lights Dean City, where we will see what happened with Hatred and Venture. And then also Dean and his time during the city over the summer. And we will also look at assisted suicide. So we are moving rapidly towards the end of this season. After our next episode, we only have 2 episodes after that, so only 4 episodes left in season 4 as we go along here. So remember, like, subscribe, follow, join in the conversation. Over on the other on the podcast channel, we've got the links below, but we've got our Off the Reels. We're currently in the middle of looking at a series of the Edgar Wright films. Right now we're on the Cornetto trilogy. This week we'll be hitting up, this week to be listened to. Next week we currently have our episode on Shaun of the Dead up, but we will be next doing Hot Fuzz. So if you're interested in those, check those out. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Go Team Venture. Say not funny guys again.
Not funny guys again.
No, can you say not funny guys?